Hi everyone, for today's video, I'm going to be talking about these 4 amazing brushes from Sonia G. I actually hauled this from beautylish.com back in January and I've been using it since then, and I've just been trying to see how well they will work with me and in my makeup sentiments. And so far, I do have to say that I have been very happy in how this kind of like integrated into how I actually do makeup. Now, the reason why I was at Beautylish is because if you've seen my Viseart 6-pan blush palette review, I said there that I needed different brushes or fan brushes because the pans here are rectangular. So it's quite difficult for me to fit the blush brushes that I have in my kit currently. So I knew that Sonia G has an amazing line of fan brushes, so that's why I decided to go there. And luckily, I was able to get these two. And these two were just like an accessory to the purchase actually. So what I'm going to do first is I'm going to talk about these two because these two fan brushes are actually the pièce de résistance of this video. Okay, so what we have here is the Worker 3 brush. Now, as you can see, it's still very beautiful. And this is the brush that's part of her fundamental line because it has that thick handle design. Now, I still love the color of this brush. Like, I love that there's a pop of red in the middle between the ferrule and the base of the handle. It still serves as a visual cue that this is the part where you actually hold the brush. And the main reason why I love her fundamental line is because it's very well balanced. As you can see here, the weight is distributed evenly throughout the entire brush length. And it just reminds me of how I actually hold a pencil. It's just more comfortable this way. But anyway, that's just me. Now, I was very lucky with this. Thankful actually that it was still available on Beautylish because I fell in love with the Worker 2 brush. Now, if you've seen my previous haul video about Sonia G's brushes, I actually discussed the reason why I love the Worker 2, and I primarily use this to apply concealer in the under eye area. If we're going to compare these two brushes, so this is the Worker 2 and this is the Worker 3, so the brush heads are quite similar, but if we turn it to the side, you can see here that the Worker 2 actually tapers to a flat rounded tip, while the Worker 3 actually is a little bit more puffy and airy. So I kind of like the Worker 3 for this because if I use the Worker 2 to pack in concealer on the under eye area or cream eyeshadows, I can actually use the Worker 3 wherein I can apply concealers and cream eyeshadows in a much more diffused manner. So that's the reason why I was in the market to get the Worker 3. So for example, let's get this NARS Radiant Creamy Concealer, and I'm just going to load it at the back of my hand here, and I'm just gonna load the brush tip here, and I'm just gonna apply a small amount of concealer in the spots where I want to add coverage. So it kind of buffs it in and blends everything at the same time, so it kind of cuts down your application process. Now, the great thing about this brush is that it is made of undyed Chikuhodo hair, so it's great to use for cream or powder products. So think concealers, cream highlighters, cream toppers, or even like liquid eyeshadows. It would be very great to use. Okay, so this is how Worker 3 applies concealer. Now, I can also use this, at the side of the nose, by the way. It's so small, so it can fit into like those hard to reach areas of the face. Let's just remove some of the product on this microfiber towel. And I'll show you how well this brush applies cream shadows instantly and in a jiffy. Now, by the way, the brush head here is quite dense but fluffy. So it is actually able to pick up a great amount of product or pigment, and when it starts applying that product or pigment into like the eye, like what we're doing here, not only does it impact a great amount of pigment, but it also blends it at the same time. So it kind of cuts down your application process. Okay, and just like that, you have one wash of eyeshadow on your eyelid. Oh, I love this color. This is the first time I'm using this color, and it's giving me that nice 60s vibe, and I'm enjoying that. It's a nice color. Okay, I'm gonna do my other eye just for like, balance. I just realized right now that I'm very colorful, a blue eyeshadow and a neon green shirt. It's actually starting to warm up here in Metro Manila, so it means like the hot summer season is about to arrive. So let's usher it in with nice colorful makeup. Okay, so as you can see, the brush like really helps you in applying color fast, and it also helps you in being able to layer on pigment and the intensity that you want, and it also enables you to blend it out effectively. Okay, so I'm just gonna remove the eyeshadow that we used because I'm not like mentally prepared to have blue eyeshadow at the moment. Okay, so now that I'm back to my normal self, the next brush that I'm going to be talking about is the Detail Pro brush. Now, as you can see here, this is part of her Pro line. Her line of brushes, which has this tapered handle design here. Now, it still has that same red pop of color here in the middle between the black ferrule and the black base, and I love how it fades into the base here. Now, as you can see here, the brush head is made of dyed and undyed Chikuhodo hair. So it's still very soft, but it's also quite dense, and it actually keeps its shape very well. Now, I love how fluffy and airy the brush head looks because this actually helps in delivering a much more diffused color on the face. So when I say that, it means you can use eyeshadows for this, you can use bronzers, you can use highlighters, you can use finishing powders. This brush enables you to actually apply those products in a much more specific area on the face and diffuse it at the same time. Now, I actually used this brush in my recent video for my review on the Hourglass Ambient Lighting Edit Mini Sculpture Unlock. I'm gonna link that video down below so that you can see this brush in action there, but I'm gonna insert like a small snippet here wherein you can see that I'm actually using it to apply like bronzer on the eyelid in a very fast and diffused manner. So that's also the great thing about this brush, is that it enables you to apply products softly but fast. Now the thing is, I don't actually use this brush for eyeshadow application or bronzer application, but what I've actually started using this for is that I actually use this to apply powder when I am retouching. There's a fly. Anyway, so if I know that I have a long day on set, this is what I use to actually apply powder in specific areas on the face, just so that we can avoid shine. And because of the airy nature of the brush, I am not able to pick up a ton amount of product, especially loose powder. I'm only able to pick up a very limited amount of powder, which is great, and apply it where I need to apply on the face. Because if I use like a much more stiffer or a much more like those regular flat and round brush, especially if it's a bit smaller and denser, I'm gonna pick up a lot of powder products, and I'm also gonna deliver a lot of powder products. And if that happens, if I'm working throughout the day and I'm just continuing to build the powder on the face, it's gonna look quite cakey. Now, in order for me to show you guys how I use this on the face, I'm gonna apply some tinted moisturizer first. So this is my NARS Pure Radiant Tinted Moisturizer. This is in Saint Moritz, and I'm just gonna use my fingers to apply the product on my face. So the thing with like NARS tinted moisturizers is that you have to massage it well into your skin so that it blends very well and it looks very seamless. Okay, now that I have some tinted moisturizer on, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna, apply some powder at specific parts of my face where I just want to set. So usually with me, this part of my face is quite shiny, and also I'm using the brush to set my under eye area where I applied concealer earlier. And then let's just do like our crease and just blend it. Okay, so as you can see right now, so this is the part of my face where I have not set my under eye area, or like the specific part of my face where I actually like to set with powder. And the thing is, this brush actually creates a much more thinly layered amount of powder, and I really like that. And that really helps as you go throughout the day, and then if you're just like constantly retouching, this really helps in diffusing the powder on the face without applying a ton amount of product. Okay, so let's just set some parts of our nose. You can also use this to set like some parts of the like above the eyebrows, because we tend to get oily there most of the time, well, especially me. All right, so I'm liking how this looks. Now I'm not gonna set my entire face because we'll get there in a bit. So the next brush that we're going to be talking about is now her Sculpt 4 brush. It's this very beautiful brush that we have here. As you can see, it still has that amazing handle, very shiny, very luxurious looking. Now I've said it before, like the colors of her handles, like especially the red handles, reminds me of like how sunset looks like. But right now it reminds me of how a luxurious car actually looks like. And I still love this thick handles of hers. So this Sculpt 4 is part of her fundamental line. I was really quite surprised when I got this brush first after I removed its plastic packaging. I was so surprised on the brush head design. So as you can see here on the side, it's quite rounded here, and then it kind of tapers to a much more sharper looking edge as it like flares to the other side. It looks like an egg actually. It's one of the most unique designs I've ever seen, and it's quite dense here in the belly of the brush, and it keeps its shape amazingly. So when you bend the bristles back and forth, it goes back instantly. This is named the Sculpt 4, so that's one thing that I like about how Sonia G names her brushes, is that with the name alone, it tells you what you can use it for. So this is the Sculpt 4, so automatically you can use this for applying bronzers or contouring products into your face for sculpting. Now before we get to that, I have also realized that you can actually use this brush in applying blushes. And let's do that. So of course, because you know the main reason why I actually bought this fan brush is for this palette. So we're just gonna load the brush here with product. And as you can see here, it picks up quite an amazing amount of product. And also it doesn't promote any product fallout or like product disturbance, which I really like because it doesn't enable me to pick up more product than necessary. But one thing that I have noticed with her Sculpt 4 brush is that when you actually lay it on the product, you pick up the colors on this part of the brush, and you don't really get a lot of the product at the very tips or at the area near the base of the brush here. So what you can do is that you have just to be very careful with your application, and you have to lay the brush like maybe at a 45-degree angle, especially if this is a blush. And all you have to do is just to apply it with a very light hand and blend it well into the skin. So as you can see here, it's applying a very well, diffused amount of color, but it's also looking quite defined at the same time. So if you're someone who likes to apply your blushes in a sculptural manner, this brush will actually work for you. All right, so that's great, isn't it? Okay, so what we're going to do is that we're going to remove some of the color from the brush head into this microfiber towel, because this time we will be applying some bronzer. So let's just lay the brush very well into the pan, and make sure that you pick up bronzer and you try to apply as much as you can at the rounded edge here, because this is the part of the brush that you actually lay well into your cheekbones, and this is what you use to sculpt it and follow the entire length of your cheekbone. And what this does is that the rounded part of the brush actually delivers a much more high impact pigment on the face. And as you start blending and dragging the brush across the face, this part of the brush here, where it actually thins out and it's actually much more longer. So as you continue to drag the brush along the face, it actually helps you to diffuse the product. So again, let's just, blend everything and apply it in a sculptural manner, just so it emphasizes our cheekbones. So as you can see right now, we are having a very delicate bronzer application, and it's blending very well with the blush. So now, if you want to have a much more sculptural effect in your bronzer application or even with your contouring products, what you're going to do is that you will actually load the very tips of the brush here with product, and you will lay that brush at a perpendicular angle, like from your cheekbone or under your cheekbone, and that's what you use. You just gently pat it in so that you have that initial color that you can see here. And then what you're going to do is that you're going to just drag the brush along your cheekbone and then apply it in a much more sculptural manner. and blend everything. Now what's amazing with this is that if you're using this for contouring products, you know, it actually helps to blend the product well into your hairline. Well, I don't have any hair anymore, but if, like, you know, just for the purpose of demonstration, like, it kind of helps you to, like, really bring in the product well into the hairline, because that's one thing that you have to be very careful when you're using bronzer and contouring, because sometimes if you don't blend it well into the hairline, you see this like white line between the hair and the bronzer, and you know, it kind of destroys the illusion of having seamless makeup application, and people, like, they tend to zone into those kinds of things on the face. So just be very careful with that. As you can see here, this brush really helped me in creating a very sculpted cheek. And if you're someone who's into that, this brush can really help you in achieving that. Okay, so I'm just gonna set it a bit. So I'm just gonna pick up some of this loose powder with my Chikuhodo MKUM brush. And I'm just gonna set everything into place. And this also, like, you know, helps to blend everything. So let's just remove more of that product here. So this brush is made of undyed Chikuhodo hair, so it's very, very soft, but it's also very sturdy at the same time. It's quite amazing actually how this brush works. You can also actually use this for cream products. Now usually when I do contouring, which I don't do a lot by the way, I actually prefer to use like a liquid contouring product, and my contouring product of choice is actually what I use for my airbrush, and this is from Makeup Designery, and this is their shading color, and this is what I actually use to create contouring on the face, because as you can see here, it's much more neutral. So this is great in actually mimicking how shadows appear on the face. So what I'm doing now is I'm just loading the tip of the brush here, and I'm just gonna apply it under my cheekbones here. And as you can see, it's now giving me a very defined contouring on my cheek line. So I don't usually apply this intense of a contouring, so this is just for demonstration purposes, by the way. And you know, this brush also helps me to blend it well into the cheekbones. So as you can see here, it's looking like it's creating a nice shadow on my cheeks, and let's blend that into the hairline and into the temples, just so we don't ruin the illusion. All right, so how great is that? So this is the one, you know, with bronzer, blush, and some gentle contouring using a bronzer, and this is how my cheek looks like with actual contouring product using the Sculpt 4. So it's making me look very defined at the moment. And sometimes if I want to define my cheekbone some more, I would actually use this thinner part of the brush here and just flick it out a bit here, just so that I lose that very round shape of my cheekbones and to make it much more angular. Okay, so I'm just gonna set that with some powder, just so that you guys can see how well it now blends into my skin. Okay, so this is the magic that the Sonia G Sculpt 4 brush does for me. And the next brush that we have here is the Fan Pro brush. Now, basing from the handle design of this brush, it is part of a Pro line, and it still has that tapered handle and that nice pop of color in the middle. And this brush head is still made of undyed Chikuhodo hair. Now, I'm so amazed at how well this fan brush actually keeps its shape, because you know, Chikuhodo hair is very, very soft, but this brush is quite dense in the middle, so I think that really helps in keeping the shape of this brush. And this is what I actually use when I want to apply, like, you know, finishing powders in specific parts of the face, or highlighters on the top of the cheekbones. Like for example, I actually used this brush in my Hourglass ambient lighting mini edit video, and I'm gonna insert like a small snippet here of me using this brush in applying finishing powders on my brow bone area. Now I really love using this brush for that because it fits fairly well into my brow bone area, and it kind of like fits seamlessly into the curves of my bone, so that's the reason why I like it. And as you can see, like, you know, when I press it gently, the brush actually follows how my bones curve out. And when this brush actually applied the finishing powder on the brow bone, it applied a very diffused and well-balanced amount of pigment on it. So that's the reason why I actually like doing that. I also use this actually for applying highlighters. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pick up some of this color here. This is Albatross from NARS, and I'm just going to show you guys how well this brush applies it in a very specific area and how well it also blends the product into your cheekbone. Now I really love this Albatross highlighter because it's kind of golden, which is ironic because it actually looks white on the pan. So I really like this because it doesn't create that ashy look on the skin. Ooh, look at that. Okay, let's try that here. Again, it's helping me apply a very precise amount of color on the cheeks. And if you so desire, you can just connect it into your brow bone. But make sure when you're doing that, try to apply a less amount of highlighter because sometimes if you apply too much on this part of your face, like it really brings your brow bone out. And sometimes if that happens, it kind of makes your eyes look heavy and sometimes it could make you look angry. So try to have a minimal approach in applying highlighting products on your face. And by the way, you can also use this brush to apply highlighters on the bridge of your nose, if that's your thing. Now, before making this video, I just read the description for this brush, and you can actually use this practically for anything on the face. Now, aside from highlighting, you can use this for contouring. Like if you want to have like a very precise contouring on the cheeks, you can use this. And the other thing that you can also use this for is that you can use this for blush application. Now, the thing is, you just have to be very careful because this is quite a dense brush, so it tends to pick up more product than the usual, especially if you have a heavy hand when you're pressing onto the pan. But it's quite amazing actually that it's really like a multi-use brush, and I like that because having a multi-use brush in your collection helps in making your makeup application process go on faster. Alright, so that's it from me today, guys. If you have any more questions about the brushes that I used today, please leave them down at the comments box below and let's have a conversation about this. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope that you're having a good day wherever you are. Bye bye.